What if I told you that a letter written by Bill Clinton in 2001, meant only for the next president's eyes, was never delivered, and that Donald Trump just found it buried in a White House storage vault? 20 years of silence. One letter that could shake the pillars of American power. Let's begin. The morning of January 21st, 2025, started like any other for the newly re-elected President Donald J. Trump. Flanked by his closest aides in the West Wing, he was already signing executive orders, reviewing transition memos, and celebrating what he called the greatest comeback in political history. But amid the chaos of renewed power, a routine internal audit of presidential archives triggered something unexpected. A flag on a document that had never been logged as delivered. Its title was simple: Letter from 42 to 43. In White House parlance, that meant President number 42, Bill Clinton, had written a private message intended solely for his successor, George W. Bush, the 43rd president. But the digital file connected to that document had been sealed, misfiled, and marked as classified, WH internal use only. No record showed Bush ever receiving it. No record showed Clinton confirming delivery. For over 2 decades, it had vanished in plain sight. Trump, immediately intrigued, ordered a search. "Find me that damn letter," he said, according to one staffer. "I want to know what Billy was hiding." Within hours, a hard copy was retrieved from a secure facility within the Eisenhower Executive Office building. The folder bore Clinton's presidential seal, was dated January 19, 2001, and sealed with a physical red wax stamp, something not used in modern presidential communication. It was untouched. Inside were 12 handwritten pages, no digital backup, no duplicate in the Clinton Presidential Library. The first line read, "To the man who now holds what I once did, there are things you should know." But before Trump could even finish reading it, the letter was snatched into legal review. His general counsel warned, "This might not be just a personal message. If this touches on national security, foreign relations, or classified programs, we'll need to tread carefully." That's when Trump, in classic fashion, made it public. He tweeted, "Just found a never-delivered letter from Bill Clinton. It's wild. Should have been given to Bush. Why wasn't it?" Media erupted. CNN called it an unprecedented breach of post-presidency protocol. Fox News labeled it deep state mishandling at its finest. But the real mystery wasn't just the letter itself. It was why no president before Trump had ever seen or heard of it. Clinton's office issued a brief statement. President Clinton has no comment at this time regarding the matter. George W. Bush's spokesperson was more direct. "We were never made aware of any such document." So who hid it? And why? Inside the pages of that letter, according to anonymous White House sources, were phrases like embedded influence, non-elected handlers, and decisions made outside the Oval. Some called it paranoia. Others called it a warning. But one thing was certain: the letter existed, and the person who now held it was the one man who would never keep it quiet. As the dust settled from Trump's explosive tweet, questions multiplied like wildfire. Who misplaced the letter? Who knew of its existence? And why had it remained untouched for nearly 24 years? The search for answers led not to a former president, nor to the CIA or FBI, but to an aging bureaucrat in Alexandria, Virginia. His name was Edwin Kessler, 77, retired from the National Archives since 2011, and largely forgotten by the political world. Until now. Kessler, once head of presidential document transitions, had overseen the physical handoff between administrations for decades. In a rare interview arranged quietly by a mid-tier Trump staffer, Kessler sat down, visibly anxious. His voice cracked as he spoke. "I remember the Clinton envelope. I remember it because it was different," he said. According to Kessler, the envelope arrived on the morning of January 20th, 2001, Inauguration Day. Clinton's chief of staff had handed it to him personally, marked with specific delivery instructions. Hand only to the incoming president. No intermediaries. No delay. But there was a problem. That day was chaotic. The Bush transition team was disorganized after the Florida recount debacle. With shifting schedules and uncertain logistics, the envelope was temporarily placed into the WHIO, White House Internal Office, Vault System. And then, Kessler said, it vanished. Not by accident, not by misplacement. It was pulled. Pulled. Someone higher up than me logged a vault order, he claimed, sliding a crumpled paper across the table. A printed archive pull request dated January 21st, 2001. The name redacted. The request marked, Relocate TO Pentagon Vault 3D. The Pentagon. It didn't make sense. Why would a personal presidential letter be stored in a military intelligence repository? But the paper trail was consistent. The National Archives log showed a change in custody 2 days after Clinton left office, from civilian documentation to defense intelligence protocols. Technically, that was illegal, a violation of presidential transition policy. Kessler never reported it. Because it wasn't a mistake, he whispered. It was an order. Now, with the letter resurfaced in 2025, the political world wanted blood. Democrats accused Trump of exploiting personal history. Republicans accused the Clinton-era establishment of covering up internal secrets. News anchors turned the story into a national guessing game. What was in the letter? Leaks started to trickle in. One aide who had reviewed the first page described it as a manifesto on unseen power. Another said it referred to a decision-making layer that bypasses elected authority. A third hinted at names of individuals not in any government database. Pundits dismissed it as conspiracy theory, but the phrase that stuck, repeated across Reddit, YouTube, and late-night monologues, was the one written in Clinton's own cursive at the bottom of page 2. If you're reading this, it's already too late. Trump, in response to the mounting hysteria, held a press conference outside the White House Rose Garden. I'm not here to play games. The American people deserve to know what Clinton said, what Bush never saw, and why Obama and Biden didn't say a word about it. This was hidden, but not anymore. Behind the scenes, legal teams scrambled. National Archives attorneys wanted the document resealed. The Pentagon issued a terse statement denying any involvement. And inside Clinton's private estate in Chappaqua, New York, the former president remained completely, eerily silent. The man who had once written the most private note in presidential history was now at the center of the most public political mystery of the decade. And still, no one knew who had ordered the letter buried. The White House had never felt this unstable. Not during Watergate, not during the Clinton impeachment, not even during January 6th. And yet, as Bill Clinton's long-lost letter continued to dominate headlines, the atmosphere was more than political. It was existential. Despite pressure from advisors, Trump refused to keep the document private. Instead, he authorized the release of selected, redacted portions of the letter to the media. It was a gamble, but a calculated one. On January 28, 2025, the first 4 pages were declassified and published by multiple outlets. The world stopped to read. Clinton's handwriting was precise, emotional, and at times chilling. History does not move forward by accident. There are systems beneath the systems. Every president walks into the Oval Office thinking they are the decider. That is a lie. You are briefed, managed, restrained, often by people whose names never make the news. I was warned not to write this. That's why I did. The implications were massive. Commentators debated whether Clinton was referring to the deep state, to military-industrial lobbies, or to foreign intelligence embedded within U.S. networks. But one paragraph in particular sent shockwaves through every political circle. There are 3 non-elected nodes of influence. 1 domestic, 1 transnational, and 1 digital. I cannot name them here, not because I fear them, but because naming them would legitimize them. My mistake was trying to dismantle one of them. I paid for it in ways I can never publicly explain. That sentence broke the internet. Twitter, now X, became a war zone. Some called Clinton brave. Others labeled him delusional. Hashtags like #3nodes, #ClintonWarning, and #HiddenPowers flooded the trending pages. Thousands began digging through historical decisions during the late 90s, trying to find what Clinton might have paid for. Old policy shifts resurfaced. Intelligence budget freezes, pushback on satellite surveillance programs, vetoed international trade deals. Theories bloomed, and so did threats. On February 1st, the Secret Service confirmed an attempted break-in at the Clinton residence in Chappaqua. The intruder had military-level equipment and no known identity. Clinton was unharmed, but he remained silent. Meanwhile, inside Trump's West Wing, a different kind of storm brewed. Intelligence agencies began pushing back. The Director of National Intelligence issued a rare, direct memo. Continued disclosure of classified presidential correspondence could severely compromise national security. Trump scoffed. "I think national security's already been compromised," he told reporters. "Just not by me." Then came the second leak, this one unauthorized. A cyber group known only as Fuse uploaded an internal 2001 memo to a public blockchain. The memo, dated 5 days after Clinton's departure, showed a secret meeting between a Pentagon Defense Subcommittee and 4 private sector AI developers. The topic, Operational Narrative Management in Digital Environments. And the title of the memo? Node C Integration, Civil Disengagement Protocols. Journalists scrambled to verify it. Lawmakers demanded hearings. The public panicked. Was Clinton warning about the weaponization of digital platforms? Was he hinting at a system already in place before Facebook, before Twitter, before smartphones? Something that had quietly grown with every click, search, and view? The questions multiplied. Clinton remained silent. But the next line in his letter, still unreleased, was said to be under urgent review by White House lawyers. One aide leaked it anonymously to a journalist. It read, "One day, someone will read this and think it's fiction. That's when you'll know it worked." February 5, 2025. By now, Bill Clinton's letter had stopped being a document. It had become a firestorm. And in Washington, D.C., firestorms are rarely allowed to burn uncontrolled, unless someone wants them to. The White House was under siege, not from outside, but from within. Federal departments were no longer speaking in half-whispers. Now they were issuing directives. The CIA, in an internal communiqué, instructed all active personnel to refrain from commenting, on or off the record, about the Clinton correspondence. The Department of Defense invoked an obscure presidential directive from 1988, requesting custody of all related materials under national continuity operations. The National Archives sent a cease and desist order to the media organizations that had published photos of Clinton's handwritten pages, claiming unlawful possession of sensitive records. The FBI opened an official inquiry into the leak of the Pentagon's Node C memo, and sources close to the Bureau revealed that they were also investigating the group Fuse. But inside the West Wing, none of it slowed Trump down. "It's already out there," he said during a private meeting. "Trying to put the genie back in the bottle just proves it was real all along." His press secretary refused to confirm or deny that the entire letter would be released. But Trump was preparing something bigger, a full primetime address, live from the White House, with the letter projected behind him. "We're going to tell the truth," he said, "or at least make them react to it." Behind closed doors, the Clinton silence. Clinton's silence was growing louder. Reporters had been camped outside his estate for 10 days. He hadn't taken a single question, hadn't tweeted, hadn't written a statement. His office gave a cold standard response. No comment on classified material. But those closest to him were worried. Former staffers, speaking off the record, said Clinton had anticipated a day like this. "He knew it might surface," said one. "He just didn't know when or how, or if he'd even be alive when it did." A retired Secret Service agent who once served under Clinton claimed the former president had kept a separate file, marked post-truth. No one knew what was inside. That file, reportedly, was missing. Congress reacts. The leaks spread further. Congress couldn't ignore it any longer. A bipartisan committee was announced to investigate the origins, handling, and implications of the Clinton-Bush letter. But the political lines were already drawn. Republicans called it the tip of a very old iceberg. Democrats called it a dangerous precedent based on conjecture. And yet, on February 8th, another leak surfaced, one that couldn't be denied. This time, it wasn't a letter. It was a recording. A 17-minute audio file uploaded anonymously to multiple servers featured a 2001 closed-door discussion between senior officials from the Clinton outgoing team and Bush's early transition staff. The topic: information vetting and withholding. The voices were calm, procedural, but what they discussed was explosive. There are certain transitions that don't need to happen on paper. This isn't a briefing. It's a blindfold. The president wants continuity, not clarity. Clinton's voice was not on the tape, but one aide references him directly. He wrote the letter because he felt boxed out. But if we deliver it, we break the system he tried to warn against. The reaction was instant. Cable news anchors froze mid-sentence when the audio hit airwaves. One declared, "This isn't conspiracy. This is methodical, institutional omission." Hashtag what else was hidden began trending within minutes. The military weighs in. Then came the unexpected twist. A retired four-star general, speaking on live television. General Eliza Morgan, former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, broke her silence in a CNN exclusive. "I reviewed portions of Clinton's letter back in 2002, she said calmly. "I was asked not to speak about it ever." When asked by the host if the letter's warnings were valid, she didn't hesitate. Some of them were paranoid, but not all. Some were dead accurate, and the proof is probably buried in digital archives we no longer control. "Who controls them?" the host asked. General Morgan looked straight at the camera. "Ask Silicon Valley." Digital platforms begin to shift. Within 48 hours, something strange happened. Posts about the Clinton letter began disappearing. Videos analyzing Note C were demonetized or removed for community violations. AI-generated transcripts of the letter disappeared from Google Cache. A popular independent researcher had his account suspended without warning. Whispers began to spread. Were tech companies pressured into limiting the spread of the letter's contents? Was the digital node Clinton mentioned already at work? Trump posted on Truth Social, "They're censoring the truth. That means it's real. Fight back." A final sentence leaks. On February 10th, an anonymous source, believed to be from within the White House, leaked what they claimed was the final paragraph of the letter. Clinton's alleged closing words read, "If this message has reached you, then the safeguards I failed to build have also failed. I do not ask you to believe me. I ask you to watch what happens next." The public was split. Was Clinton a whistleblower? Or was this entire saga a carefully constructed illusion designed to create chaos? The truth was murky. But the cover-up, if it was one, had become the story itself. And the man who had started it all? Still silent. February 14th, 2025. Valentine's Day had never felt so hollow in Washington. Under the frost-covered skyline, America was holding its breath. What had begun as a mystery, a missing letter written by former President Bill Clinton to George W. Bush, had evolved into a national reckoning. With Trump now back in the Oval Office, a decision loomed over the nation like a storm cloud. Should the letter, its full content still unseen, be made public? At precisely 9 p.m., President Trump walked into the East Room of the White House, flanked by flags and silence. He spoke only once, directly to the camera. "They've hidden enough from you. Time to see what they didn't want Bush, Obama, or Biden to ever read." And just like that, the White House uploaded the full, unredacted, 12-page handwritten letter to its official server. No commentary, no redactions, no filter. Within minutes, the site crashed. But not before screenshots spread like wildfire. The letter was explosive. In careful cursive, Clinton began with an ominous tone. "If you're reading this, then either something has gone terribly wrong, or perfectly according to plan." He wrote not as a politician, but as a man haunted by truths too large for any presidency. He detailed what he called the triad, a triangle of unelected influence that had embedded itself deep within the fabric of American power. The first point, embedded intelligence. Clinton claimed that certain figures within the intelligence community had held sway over policy, unaffected by elections. These weren't conspiracies, he insisted. These were people he'd met, briefed with, and later questioned. "They didn't answer to the president," he wrote. "They answered to each other." The second point, transnational financial control. Clinton alleged that during his second term, international agreements, treaties, and funding structures had begun shaping U.S. domestic decisions without congressional oversight. He cited back-channel memos from unnamed institutions in Geneva and Brussels, documents that, according to him, outlined behavioral expectations for incoming administrations. "You don't want the White House to lead anymore," he wrote. "You want it to obey." But it was the third point, digital management systems, that left the public shaken. Long before the social media era, Clinton claimed to have been briefed on a project under the Department of Defense in collaboration with several Silicon Valley firms. Its objective: to develop platforms that could gently manipulate public sentiment at scale. "We were told it was for national stability," he wrote. That phrase still keeps me up. According to the letter, Clinton tried to shut the project down in early 2000, but by then, it had already spun beyond his control. He named it only once in the letter, Node C. He claimed it had been designed to be self-correcting, adaptive, and, most disturbingly, hidden in plain sight. Its key feature: the ability to steer online discourse just enough to create doubt, not clarity. In his own words, Node C doesn't change what you think. It changes how confident you are in what you think you know. Public reaction was instant. Social media platforms exploded, ironically proving the letter's point. Posts about Node C were flagged, hidden, or deleted. Accounts that tried to share the letter verbatim were shadow banned. Thousands of users who'd never interacted with politics suddenly found their feeds flooded with unrelated content. The term Node C began trending worldwide, then disappeared from trending pages entirely. Clinton, still silent in Chappaqua, issued no public statement, but multiple sources confirmed that security around his residence had tripled. A spokesperson from the Clinton Foundation told reporters, "We have no comment on unverified documents." It didn't matter. The American public had already decided this wasn't a hoax. It was too detailed, too surgically personal, too real. Within 48 hours, Congress called for emergency hearings. Former intelligence officials were subpoenaed. Whistleblower protections were quietly updated. Civil liberties groups filed lawsuits against multiple tech companies. And while the mainstream press debated the authenticity of Clinton's claims, independent investigators released decades-old procurement records showing billions in behavioral analytics, contracts funneled through shell companies to defense subcontractors. The biggest bombshell came not from Clinton, but from a former data engineer for a major tech firm who testified under oath. Yes, Node C existed. Still does. Most of us didn't know the name. We just called it the tilt. Every algorithm tweak had one question behind it. How does it nudge belief? Not accuracy. Not clarity. Belief. Back at the White House, Trump leaned into the chaos. He called for full audits of every federal department tied to intelligence, defense, or social media oversight. The American people weren't just misled, he said in a televised address. They were managed. Critics accused him of weaponizing the letter for political gain, but even his enemies struggled to deny the gravity of its contents. This wasn't a partisan scandal. It was systemic, rooted in decades of secrecy, subtlety, and strategic manipulation. As the nation reckoned with the implications, the final line of Clinton's letter, now etched into political history, spread like wildfire. If this reaches the public, the system failed. But perhaps in its failure, the people can finally begin. There were no answers in that line, only a challenge. And in that challenge, a truth more frightening than any conspiracy, that in the age of perfect connectivity, democracy's greatest threat may not come from what we're told, but from what we're never meant to question. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and press the like button.